The air was thick with the scent of roasted chicken and garlic, wafting through my cozy suburban kitchen. The table was set, the plates gleaming under the soft glow of the overhead light, creating a warm atmosphere that seemed to promise laughter and togetherness. As I arranged the last of the silverware, I felt a flutter of hope in my chest, despite the nagging doubts that had lingered since I had decided to share my financial truth with my children. Their laughter echoed from the living room, a sound that used to fill me with joy but now felt like a foreign melody, distant and almost mocking. "Mom, dinner's ready," my youngest called out, his voice tinged with excitement. I forced a smile, masking the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. The weight of my impending revelation pressed down on me like a heavy cloak. Would they understand? Or would they dismiss my struggles, just as they had when they accused me of being broke? I could still hear their laughter, light and carefree, but I knew the truth would shatter that illusion. As we gathered around the table, I noticed their eyes darting towards the lavish spread before them, glimmering with expectation. My heart raced, my palms clammy against the cool porcelain of my plate. I had sacrificed so much for them over the years, yet here I was, preparing to reveal that my sacrifices had not been for nothing. I cleared my throat, the sound heavy with anticipation. "I need to tell you something important," I began, my voice trembling slightly. The room fell silent, the laughter replaced by a tense stillness. I took a deep breath, summoning the courage I had mustered throughout the years. "I'm not broke. In fact, I have an inheritance of $6 million that I've been waiting to discuss with you." The words hung in the air, thick with disbelief. Their reactions were immediate, eyes wide with shock, mouths slightly agape. I saw the flicker of confusion cross their faces, followed by a wave of awkward laughter from my eldest, who attempted to lighten the mood. "Oh, come on, Mom, you're joking, right?" His laughter echoed hollowly, and I felt the sting of betrayal wash over me. This was not the reaction I had envisioned. I watched as they exchanged glances, their laughter turning from lighthearted to uncomfortable. The truth was sinking in, and with it, the realization that they had underestimated my sacrifices, my strength, and my worth. As the weight of the moment settled around us, I knew this dinner would change everything. In that instant, I felt a shift in the air, a tension that would lead us to confront the very fabric of our family bonds. I had hoped for understanding, yet all I felt was the sharp edge of betrayal, ready to cut through the facade we had built together. The kitchen was a familiar battleground, filled with the scent of garlic and simmering tomatoes, yet today it felt charged with an unspoken tension. I moved around the island, chopping vegetables with a precision that belied the turmoil brewing inside me. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting warm beams that danced across the tiled floor, but I felt cold, isolated from the laughter echoing in the living room where my children gathered. They were all smiles and jokes, completely unaware of the storm that was about to unfold. As I stirred the sauce, memories flooded my mind, years spent sacrificing my own dreams for their futures. I could see their little faces, wide-eyed and innocent, as I read bedtime stories or cheered them on at school events. Yet here they were, dismissing my countless sacrifices as if they were mere footnotes in the story of their lives. I inhaled deeply, trying to quell the frustration bubbling within me. My hands trembled slightly as I set down the spoon, my heart racing at the thought of confronting them. "Mom, are you coming?" My son Jason called from the other room, his voice laced with impatience. I could hear the laughter behind him, a sound that once brought me joy but now felt like a taunt. I paused, my heart heavy with sadness. How could they not see the depth of my love? I took a moment to collect my thoughts, glancing at the family photos that adorned the walls, each frame a reminder of the love that had once bound us together. I stepped into the living room, where their playful banter filled the air. "What's taking her so long?" Emily quipped, her tone light but edged with annoyance. I felt a sting at her words, as if she were questioning my worth. "I just wanted to make sure dinner was perfect for you all," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask. The room fell silent, and I could sense their skepticism. Were they even aware of the lengths I had gone to provide for them? The atmosphere shifted as I took my place at the table, my heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to explain, to lay bare my sacrifices, but the weight of their expectations suffocated me. As I began to speak, I could feel their dismissive glances, the way they shifted in their seats, as if my words would be a burden rather than a revelation. "I've given everything for you, and I need you to understand that," I started, my voice trembling slightly. But instead of listening, they exchanged glances, a silent agreement that my struggles were trivial. The realization hit me hard. I was not merely their mother, but a shadow in their lives, a reminder of their own expectations and disappointments. The laughter resumed, a cruel symphony to my heartache, and I felt invisible once more. How had we reached this point? My sacrifices had shaped their lives, yet they felt entitled to dismiss my pain. I swallowed hard, steeling myself for the confrontation that was inevitable. This was not just about money. It was about respect, acknowledgement, and the reality that family bonds could easily fray under the weight of misunderstanding. I had to make them see me, to make them understand the depths of my sacrifices or risk losing them completely. The kitchen was filled with the scent of simmering garlic and the faint aroma of fresh herbs, but the warmth of the cooking did little to soothe the tension simmering just beneath the surface. I stood at the counter, chopping vegetables with an almost mechanical precision, my mind racing with thoughts of the impending family meeting. I could hear the faint sound of my children chatting in the next room, their laughter ringing out like a melody that only accentuated my growing unease. The sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden hue over the room, but it felt more like a spotlight on my insecurities. As I placed the chopped vegetables into a bowl, my hands trembled slightly, a physical manifestation of the storm brewing inside me. My heart raced at the thought of confronting them about their accusations. Did they truly not see the sacrifices I had made for them over the years? Memories flashed through my mind, long nights spent working multiple jobs, missed events, and the countless times I had put their needs above my own. Each recollection stung, igniting a fire of indignation within me. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts before the meeting, but the moment felt insurmountable. I could hear them joking about me, their laughter mingling with the clinking of dishes. "Mom is just being dramatic again," I imagined one of them saying, and the thought twisted like a knife in my chest. I was not being dramatic. I was hurt and confused, and I needed them to understand that. When the time finally came, we gathered around the dining table, a space that had been the heart of our home but now felt like a battleground. My heart thudded in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears. I caught their eyes, a mix of impatience and anticipation reflecting back at me. The table was set with our usual fare, comfort food that had always brought us together, yet I felt a chasm widening between us. "We need to talk about the accusations you made about my financial situation," I began, my voice trembling slightly. Silence fell over the table, thick and uncomfortable, as they exchanged glances filled with disbelief. My son Aaron leaned back in his chair, arms crossed defiantly. "Mom, you're acting like this is a big deal. We were just joking around." "Joking?" I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, anger flaring within me. "You think it's a joke that I've been struggling? I sacrificed everything for you both." My voice cracked, the emotion spilling over. I could see their expressions shift from amusement to confusion, and I fought to steady my breathing, feeling like the weight of my truth was pressing down on me. "We didn't know you were struggling, Mom. You always seem fine. We thought you were just being—" "Well, my daughter Emily said, her tone dismissive. It felt like a punch to the gut. How could they not see the reality of my life? I had shielded them from my hardships, believing I was protecting them, but now it felt like a betrayal. That's exactly the problem. I've always put on a brave face while juggling everything for our family, but it seems you only care about the money now that you think I'm broke." The words slipped out before I could stop them, raw and unfiltered. Each syllable hung in the air, heavy with the weight of my unspoken fears. Emily's brows knitted together and she shook her head in frustration. "You're making it sound like we're greedy. We just thought you'd be okay." Her voice rose slightly, a mix of defensiveness and disbelief. It was as if my pain was being dismissed, trivialized in their eyes. I felt my heart race, a mix of anger and hurt flooding through my veins. My stomach churned with the realization that this was not just about misunderstanding. It was about a fundamental disconnect in our family. As I looked at their faces, I saw not just disbelief but a refusal to acknowledge the reality of my sacrifices. The meeting ended in a tense silence, with no resolution in sight. I felt hollow, as if I had poured my heart out only to be met with indifference. It was the first real injustice I had faced from them, a complete dismissal of my struggles and sacrifices. I stood alone in the kitchen, the remnants of our meal feeling like a cruel reminder of the rift that now lay between us. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, and I knew that this was just the beginning of a long and painful journey to reclaim my voice and my worth. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the backyard, where I had spent countless afternoons watching my children play. Today, however, the atmosphere felt heavy with unspoken words and unresolved tension. I stood in the kitchen, my hands busy slicing vegetables for dinner, but my mind was elsewhere, tangled in thoughts of my children's dismissive attitudes. Each slice of the knife felt like a severing of the bonds I had spent a lifetime building. As I set the table, I recalled the many times I had sacrificed my own desires for their happiness. Memories flooded my mind, the countless school events I attended, the late nights spent helping with homework, and the sacrifices I made to provide for them. Yet here I was, on the brink of losing them, feeling like a stranger in my own home. The scent of fresh herbs mingled with the sharp tang of anxiety in the air. David entered the room, his brow furrowed with concern. "Isabella, maybe we should talk about what happened earlier?" His voice was calm, but I could hear the underlying tension. I turned to face him, my heart racing. "What's there to talk about, David? They think I'm broke. They don't see all I've done for them?" My voice cracked, revealing the vulnerability I had tried to mask. He took a step closer, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "They're just kids trying to figure out their own lives." They don't understand the sacrifices, but maybe if you explain, I pulled away, frustration bubbling to the surface. Explain, they've dismissed my sacrifices like they were nothing. How can I make them see? My words echoed in the room, laden with a mixture of hurt and anger. David's silence felt heavy, as if he too struggled to comprehend the depth of my pain. That evening we gathered around the table, the clinking of cutlery a stark contrast to the tension that hung in the air. My children, seated across from me, exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of skepticism and indifference. I cleared my throat, my heart pounding. I want to talk about what you said earlier about my financial situation. Emily scoffed, a dismissive wave of her hand cutting through my words. Mom, it's just a joke. You know we didn't mean anything by it. I felt my face flush with heat, my anger boiling beneath the surface. A joke? You think this is funny? I snapped, my breath quickening as I fought to maintain control. There was a moment of silence, their eyes wide with surprise at my sudden outburst. I could see the flicker of doubt in their expressions, a crack forming in their facade of indifference. Mom, you're overreacting. We were just trying to lighten the mood, Mark chimed in, looking at me with a mix of confusion and concern. Lighten the mood? I echoed, incredulity lacing my voice. You don't understand, this isn't just about money. It's about respect, about recognizing everything I've done for this family. My voice trembled as I spoke, the weight of years of unacknowledged sacrifices spilling out. Emily's expression shifted, a hint of realization dawning in her eyes, but it was quickly masked by a stubborn resolve. Mom, we're just trying to navigate our lives here. You've always been there, but it feels like you never really got involved. It's complicated. Her words struck a nerve, a reminder of the distance that had grown between us. As the argument escalated, I felt a surge of desperation. Complicated? You think it's complicated? Try being the one who sacrificed everything. The words felt like a raw wound, exposed and bleeding in front of them. Silence fell again, heavy and suffocating, and I could see the walls they had built around themselves starting to crack. Just then, I remembered the inheritance I had discovered, the $6 million that could change everything. It was an idea that had been lingering in the back of my mind, a glimmer of hope amidst despair. But how could I reveal it to them now? Would it even matter? Would they see it as just another tool for manipulation? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. This was the moment to break through the barriers, to force them to confront the reality of our family dynamics and the true meaning of sacrifice. The confrontation loomed ahead, and I knew it would either bring us closer or tear us apart completely. I had to be ready to fight for my voice and the respect I had long been denied. My heart raced with anticipation, a mixture of fear and resolve coursing through my veins. I would not let this moment slip away. It was time to reveal the truth about our family and about my own worth. The family gathering felt charged with an electric tension, the scent of roasted chicken and herbs wafting through the air, mingling with the fresh aroma of baked bread. I sat at the long dining table, the polished wood reflecting the warm light of the chandelier above, casting a golden hue on the faces of my children. Their laughter lingered, hauntingly beautiful yet painfully distant, as I fought to bridge the chasm that had grown between us. I could feel my heart racing, a constant reminder of the weight of my intentions, but doubts gnawed at me. Would they even listen to what I had to say? As I cleared my throat, a small tremor passed through my hands, betraying the resolve I tried to project. Can we talk? I asked, my voice cutting through the chatter like a knife. Silence enveloped the room, and I saw their expressions shift from amusement to apprehension. Emily glanced at her brother, a flicker of annoyance crossing her face as if she could sense the gravity of my words. Mom, is this really the time? She replied, her tone laced with irritation, as she reached for her glass of wine, the crystal catching the light in a way that felt almost mocking. I remembered the times I had poured my heart out to her, only to be met with dismissal. Each instance echoed in my mind, a painful reminder of the disconnect between us. I steeled myself, clenching my fists under the table, determined to push forward despite the tension. I know things have been difficult between us, I began, struggling to keep my voice steady. I've made sacrifices, thinking of our family first, but I feel like I've been losing you both in the process. My words hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. I searched their faces for a hint of understanding, but instead I found only skepticism, a wall built from years of misunderstandings. David, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up, his brow furrowed in thought. Mom, we appreciate what you've done, but it feels like you're trying to guilt us now. We're not the enemies here. His words, though sincere, hit me like a stone, the implications of his statement slicing deep. I wanted to scream that it was never about guilt. It was about longing, about wanting to feel valued and recognized. The air thickened with unspoken words as I fought against the urge to back down. I recalled a moment from earlier, a time when laughter was genuine and our connection felt unbreakable. I took a deep breath, hoping to find the strength to continue. I'm not asking for anything more than understanding. I want to mend things, to have us all together again without resentment. Can't we try? Their eyes flickered, and for a brief moment I saw a glimmer of hope, a possibility of reconciliation. But it faded just as quickly, replaced by the familiar shadows of distrust. Emily sighed, her posture tense as she leaned back in her chair, arms crossed over her chest. You talk about understanding, but it feels like you want us to change without acknowledging how we felt. We're not just pawns in your game, Mom. Her words hit me hard, a stark reminder of how misaligned our perspectives had become. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them away, unwilling to show weakness. I just want to be heard, to be part of your lives without the weight of expectation. I want us to find a way back to each other, but it's hard when it feels like you see me as a burden. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel the tension crackling in the air, an invisible barrier that seemed impossible to penetrate. My heart sank as I realized the depth of the chasm that lay before us, filled with years of unresolved grievances. I wanted to scream, to shake them into understanding, but I knew that wouldn't work. Instead, I tried to summon a smile, a gesture of peace, hoping they could sense the love that still thrummed beneath the surface of my pain. As the evening wore on, the atmosphere shifted, but not in the way I had hoped. Each attempt to connect felt like a misstep, a dance of awkwardness that left us all feeling more isolated than before. I watched as they shared jokes, laughter ringing out like a bittersweet melody, while I remained an outsider in my own family, yearning for the day when I could truly be one of them again. I left the gathering that night feeling defeated, my heart heavy with disappointment. I had hoped for understanding, for a path forward, but instead, it felt as if we were further apart than ever. As I lay in bed, the silence of the night wrapping around me, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a long road ahead toward healing. The day had begun with a sense of normalcy, but as I flipped through the stack of mail on my kitchen counter, the mundane quickly turned into a chaos of emotions. The bright morning sun poured through the window, illuminating the crisp white envelopes, casting shadows of doubt on my heart. I could smell the faint aroma of coffee brewing in the background, a comforting scent that now felt strangely out of place amidst my rising anxiety. My fingers trembled slightly as I picked up a thick envelope, its weight heavier than the others, as if it held the very secrets of my existence. With a deep breath, I tore open the envelope to reveal its contents. My heart raced as I scanned the words, each one striking me like a bolt of lightning. An inheritance, $6 million, the numbers danced in my mind, swirling with disbelief and confusion. I felt dizzy, like I was teetering on the edge of a cliff, my thoughts racing faster than I could process. How could this be? I had spent years sacrificing everything for my children, and yet here was a reality that they had never considered, wealth beyond our struggles, a legacy I had never known about until now. As I stood there, my mind flooded with memories of hardship and sacrifice. I recalled the countless nights spent worrying about bills, the times I had put my dreams aside for their needs, and the silent battles I fought within myself to make ends meet. Would this revelation change everything? Would my children finally see me for who I truly was? A whirlwind of hope and apprehension twisted in my stomach, but just as quickly as the elation sparked, a dark realization crept in. How would I share this news? My fingers clenched around the envelope as I envisioned my children's faces. Would they be shocked, angry, or worse, would they see this as their ticket to a lavish life, forgetting the true essence of family? The thought sent a chill through me, igniting a fire of determination. I could not let this inheritance define our relationships, nor could I allow greed to come between us. I paced the kitchen, my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. The sounds of the outside world faded away, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves, everything seemed muted as I contemplated my next steps. Would I reveal the truth in a calm family meeting, or would I confront them head-on, risking their anger and rejection? The weight of the envelope felt heavier than ever, a tangible reminder of the choice I had to make. I could feel the walls of my home closing in, and I knew that the coming days would test not only my resolve but the very fabric of our family. In the dim light of my workspace, cluttered with scattered notes and crumpled papers, I felt a surge of resolve igniting within me. The scent of old books mixed with the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee lingered in the air, creating a cocoon of solitude where my thoughts could spiral without interruption. The shadows danced across the walls, casting an eerie ambience that mirrored the turmoil within. I was at a crossroads, and the weight of my children's betrayal hung heavy on my chest, each beat of my heart echoing the pain of their accusations. I leaned over my planning board, the white surface marred with scribbles and diagrams reflecting my emotional chaos. My hand trembled slightly as I picked up a red marker, drawing a thick line through the words forgiveness and understanding. Those ideals felt like distant dreams now, overshadowed by the reality of their greed. I could almost hear my mother's voice in my head, warning me against harboring such dark thoughts. Yet the more I reflected on their laughter, the more I felt a shift within me, a desire for empowerment, a fierce need to reclaim my narrative. What would it take to make them see? I recalled the days when my sacrifices were met with gratitude, and now those memories felt like shards of glass cutting deep into my soul. I pictured their faces, Emily's incredulous expression, the disbelief in Mark's eyes, each one stoked the fire of my frustration. I grabbed a piece of paper and began to outline my plan, detailing the steps I would take to confront them, to demand the respect I felt I had earned through years of unwavering support. The determination coursing through me was palpable, and I could feel the adrenaline racing through my veins, urging me to act. I wrote down key phrases I would use, my heart pounding with each stroke of the pen, envisioning the moment I would finally confront them. I would not be a victim of their misconceptions any longer. I was ready to stand tall and assert my worth. Each word I penned felt like a promise to myself, a commitment that this time I would not be silenced. As I leaned back in my chair, the weight of the world seemed to lift slightly. The act of planning gave me a sense of control, a small victory in the face of overwhelming odds. I knew the path ahead would not be easy, but for the first time I felt a flicker of hope igniting within me, urging me to take back what was rightfully mine. This was not just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my identity, my dignity, and my family. I would face them, and they would understand that my silence was no longer an option. This was my moment to rise and confront the shadows of our past, my time to take charge of my own story, no matter the cost. The tension in the air crackled like static electricity as I faced my children, their expressions a mix of disbelief and anger. My heart pounded in my chest, drowning out the cheerful sounds of the wedding reception that faded into a distant hum. I could see the flicker of confusion in their eyes, and it fueled the fire within me. "You think you know me, but you don't," I began, my voice steady yet fierce, slicing through the silence that had enveloped us. "You've reduced me to a mere punchline, a joke in your lives, and I've let you. Today I reclaim my voice." My words hung in the air like a heavy fog, and I could feel their surprised stares piercing through my defenses. Emily shifted uncomfortably, her arms crossing defensively across her chest. "Mom, this isn't the time or place for this discussion," she shot back, her voice laced with irritation and embarrassment. I could sense her projection of anger was merely a shield for her vulnerability. "No, Emily, it is precisely the right time," I countered, the urgency in my voice rising. "You think I haven't sacrificed everything for you? That I haven't poured my heart into being your mother? All those years, I put your needs above my own, hoping you'd appreciate my love, but instead, you've seen me as nothing but a burden." My throat tightened, but I pressed on, the truth pouring out like a dam that had finally burst. David, standing silently beside Emily, finally spoke up, his voice low. "Isabella, maybe we can talk about this later." His attempt to mediate only fueled my resolve. I turned on him, feeling the weight of his words as if they were another blow. "Later, you think I can wait? I've spent too long waiting for you both to recognize my worth." I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, driven by a mix of anger and desperation. The walls of my heart were crumbling, and I had to break free from the chains of silence that had bound me for so long. "And what about the inheritance?" I added, a sharp edge to my voice. "You thought I was broke, that I had nothing to offer. But you don't know about the $6 million inheritance that could change everything." I watched their faces pale as the weight of my revelation settled in. Emily's mouth fell open, shock etched across her features. "What?" she finally managed to say, disbelief lacing her tone. It was the reaction I had wanted, a glimpse of reality crashing into their preconceived notions of me. "Yes, that's right. I've had this all along, hidden away, and you both thought you could just dismiss me?" The realization hit them like a tidal wave, and I felt a strange sense of satisfaction wash over me, even amidst the chaos. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the gears turning in their minds, the realization that their view of me had been so fundamentally flawed. I took a step closer, my heart pounding, the adrenaline coursing through me as I prepared for the aftermath of this confrontation. This was my moment, I wouldn't let it slip away. "This ends with me taking control of my life, my narrative," I declared, the finality of my words hanging in the air, signaling a shift in the family dynamics that had long been unchallenged. As I stood there, letting the weight of my truth sink in, I could only hope they would finally understand the depth of my sacrifices and the love that lay beneath. The battle had just begun, but I was ready to face whatever came next, determined to reclaim my place in this family and to be seen for who I truly was. The aftermath of my confrontation with Emily lingered like an uninvited guest, heavy and unsettling. Days turned into weeks, each moment stretching painfully as I navigated the silence that had settled over our family. I sat at the kitchen table, the sunlight filtering through the window and casting a warm glow on the worn wood, yet I felt cold inside. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint scent of burnt toast, a reminder of my distracted mornings, where thoughts of my children consumed me. I absent-mindedly traced the outline of the coffee mug with my fingers, the ceramic cool against my skin, grounding me while my mind raced through the myriad of emotions swirling within me. Emily had avoided me since that fateful day, her absence echoing through the halls of our home. I recalled the warmth of her laughter, now a distant memory. I could picture her face, the way her eyes lit up when she shared her dreams, but now those dreams felt overshadowed by resentment. I missed her, I missed us. The walls seemed to close in on me, each tick of the clock amplifying my loneliness, and I found myself reflecting on our last conversation. "You're making this about you," her words replayed in my mind, a haunting reminder of the distance between us. Had I truly been selfish, determined to mend the fractures, I reached out to Lily, my confidant. We met at our favorite cafe, a cozy spot adorned with flowering plants and soft music playing in the background. As I sat across from her, the scent of cinnamon wafting through the air, I felt a flicker of hope. "I need your advice," I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. "I want to reach out to Emily, but I don't know how to bridge this chasm." Lily leaned in, her eyes bright with understanding. "You need to be honest, Isabella. Share your feelings, but also listen to hers. It's about rebuilding trust, not just asserting your own perspective." Her words resonated deep within me, igniting a spark of determination. I knew I had to approach Emily again, but this time it would be different. I would listen as much as I spoke, allowing her to express her feelings without interruption. The thought sent a wave of anxiety through me, but I couldn't let fear dictate my actions any longer. I wanted to heal our relationship. The following week, I found myself standing outside Emily's apartment, my heart racing in anticipation. The evening air was cool, a stark contrast to the warmth of my resolve. I hesitated for a moment, my hand poised to knock on the door. Memories flooded my mind, her childhood laughter, her first steps, the countless moments of joy we shared. With a deep breath, I knocked softly, the sound echoing in the stillness. When the door opened, I was met with surprise and a hint of apprehension in her eyes. "Mom?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I could see the tension in her posture, the way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady yet gentle. Emily hesitated, glancing back into her apartment as if weighing her options. But then she nodded, stepping aside to let me in. The space was filled with remnants of her life, pictures of friends, trinkets from travels, and a sense of independence that filled me with pride. I took a seat on the couch, the fabric soft against my skin, yet I felt the weight of unspoken words between us. "I've missed you, Emily," I began, my voice soft yet resolute. "I'm sorry for how I approached things before. I realize now that I didn't listen to you and that hurt us both." She looked at me, her expression a mixture of surprise and vulnerability. "I've missed you too, Mom, but it's hard to forget how you made me feel that day." I felt ashamed. The honesty in her voice struck me, and I nodded, my heart aching for the pain I had caused. "I understand, and I want to do better. Can we start fresh? I want to hear what you have to say, truly." As the conversation unfolded, we navigated the complexities of our emotions, each word a step toward healing. I listened intently, absorbing her feelings, her frustrations, her hopes. I shared my own struggles, the weight of my sacrifices, and the longing for connection. With each exchange, the tension began to dissipate, and I could feel the walls between us crumbling, replaced by a tentative understanding. By the end of our conversation, we both sat in silence, the air thick with a newfound hope. Emily reached out, her hand brushing against mine, and I felt the warmth of her touch seep into my heart. "I want us to be close again, Mom," she said, her voice steady but vulnerable. "Let's work on it together." Tears prickled at the corners of my eyes, but this time they were tears of relief. We had taken the first steps toward rebuilding our relationship, and I felt a sense of acceptance wash over me. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where trust and love could flourish amid the complexities of family dynamics. As we embraced, I knew that while the road ahead would be challenging, we were finally on the path toward healing, a journey I was willing to embrace with open arms. In the soft glow of the setting sun, I sat on